You want to know if your Pokemon card's a 10? Let me show you how to figure it out. So right here, we have two Pokemon cards that I'm planning on sending out to PSA to get graded. There are two rules by my book on how we determine what a card's going to be. Okay. First rule is, why are we grading it? We're grading it because it has sentimental value, or we're grading it because it has physical value, monetary profits. So I'm deciding these two cards are going to get graded, right? I'm automatically figuring out what is the condition of this card going to be, because that determines the value or the reason why I'm sending it in. Because if it's not going to get the value that I want, why even bother sending it in, right? So if I'm sentimental about that card, I'm going to send it in regardless of what grade it gets, because it's mine. I'm sending it out for profit, which these two, I'm absolutely sending out for profit. Because I'm sending them out for profit, I need to know, as best to my ability, what the condition of that card is. So the first thing we are going to do is we're going to go over what are the four conditions that cards are based off of. And luckily, I have a little Beckett 9.5 here, and you can see what they base the card's grades on. You got centering, edges, corners, and surface. Okay. Surface is going to be one of the hardest ones to see. Now, this one's being a 9.5, it's pretty much perfect. But surface is going to be the hardest one to see with the naked eye. Centering, you can see. Corners, you can see. And edges, you can see. And we'll go over a couple examples of why you can see these things. And I'm going to show you tools to help you out with that. So that is here. So you can see the categories on which they're based off of it. Remember in your head, these are the four that your card's going to be based off of. And if you can see a distinguished mark in any of these, I can already tell you it's not going to be a PSA 10. PSA 10 is pretty much flawless. Beckett is even more critical of the card. So even Beckett 10s are very flawless and command a high premium if you get a Beckett 10. So first thing we're going to talk about is centering. And luckily for you guys, I have a beautiful centering tool. Whoop. Centering tool. Look at that. So the way centering tool works is you're going to sit there and you're going to try to line up the card. Okay. And there's two types of centering. You got top to bottom and you got left to right. So we're going to talk about the top to bottom. So here we go. So automatically we're lining it up, right? We're lining it up and we're seeing. And what we want to look at specifically is I want to look at the margins, right? So here you can see they're numbered up in the corner. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Okay, you see those numbers right there? They're numbered. And what I'm looking at is I'm looking at the gapping of the border on the face of the card. So gapping of the border on the face of the card. So right there, I see, looks like we're on a 2 on the left, right? And it looks like we're 2 on the right. So it's good. Left or right centering is good. It falls into that margin. I'm pretty confident about it. Now let's look at the bottom, right? We're going to look at the bottom. Also about a 2. Also about a 2. So the front of the card, we're looking good as far as when it comes to centering, right? So now, as well as centering, you're going to have to look at the back of the card, right? So back of the card, I do the same thing. I'm kind of eyeballing it and I'm seeing, okay, there's a 2 on the left and we're 3 on the right, right? So let's kind of just see. Let me just make sure it's in the border. Okay, now we're looking 2 on the right, about a 2.5 on the left there. So you can see right there that it's a little bit off-centered left to right. So let's look at the top, right? Let's look at the top. And once again, like a 2, almost to a 3, and the bottom, solid 3. So it's a little bit off top to bottom, and it's a little bit off left to right. Whether or not that'll dim it down to a 9 just based on that, we don't know yet. So let's look at the total value of it, right? So next thing we're going to look at is something I like looking at. And I'll bring my little tool over here. And here we go. Boom. Magnifying glass time. So this is a magnifying glass. It is actually for miniatures. For painting miniatures, I use it for grading cards. So I find it very, very good for what I need it for. So next thing we're going to look at is we're going to look at corners, sides, all that nice. So I can already tell you, right? I can already tell you right there on the side. You see that nick right there? Right there where the thumb is? Right there, that's gonna have it out. Right? So we already know the center is off. We already know there's a nick on the side. So we're just gonna continue to look. We're gonna continue to look and see. Having a magnifying glass actually really helps you out with this. And I use mine in front of me like this. So I'm just gonna sit here and I'm gonna look and I'm gonna visually inspect the card going around its borders, right? Automatically I see right there, 2 little nicks, white nicks right there, white nick right there. You can barely see it, but right there. So let's flip it around, right? Beautiful card, beautiful card. And we're just gonna go, front looks good. Front looks pretty much flawless. The corners look good. So what would I determine this card? I think this card has a really solid chance at being a 9. At being a 9, I don't think it's going to be a 10. It might be a 10 if it's 10 on everything else and maybe a 9 on the edges. But that's how I determine that one. I think that's going to be a really strong 9. That's a really strong 9. Centering, the edges, all that good stuff. Really strong 9. Just based on that. Now, could it be a 10? It very well could be a 10, depending on how the rest of it grades. But I am a firm believer of never betting on a 10, especially if I'm grading for value. Always bet it as a 9. That way, if it comes back as a 10, it's a plus, right? So even when I'm buying cards, if I'm buying cards, I'm going to predict most cards I buy, if they're in near mint condition, I'm going to predict that they're going to be 9s and 10s all day. So this is just giving you an idea of what I'm looking for when I'm sending a card out to get graded, right? So the next one, right? The Beast. So right here, right away, without even using my centering tool, it's off left to right. I can see it from here, off left to right. Let's look at the bottom. Boom, right away. Bottom, off, bottom to up. So even if it's, you don't need a centering tool. So even then, without using any other things, I'm already saying, boom, this is out of the running to be a 10. And I'm already showing, okay, it's a 9. It's a 9. So let's see, is there proof? Is there proof that it can be a 9, right? All right. So we're going through, boom, right away. I see that right there on the bottom corner. You see that? See it right there? A little bit of edge wear. That's all it takes. It's all it takes. Okay, so we're still possibly in a 9. Like, it's not perfect, right? Boom, another one right there up there in the corner. Right? Boom, now I'm seeing another one right there up in the corner. So those are all things that you're going to have to take in consideration. So do I think this is going to be a 9? Actually, no. I think this is probably going to be an 8. I think we lost our chances at it, right? And a good thing about having a magnifying glass, what you won't, is you'll be able to really take a look at the surface of the card and see if the surface of the card has any print lines, has any just surface scratches, anything like that, because that all determines a factor too. Really, all I can look at is the edges, the centering, and the corners. The surface, even with a magnifying glass, it's not going to be good. But with time, if you know what to look out for in these little things, you'll be able to see exactly what this card will grade as. So here's a card I just recently sent off, and I honestly thought this was a really good contender to be a 10, right? So I got it back and I automatically was thinking, man, I really thought this was going to be a 10. What are the issues with this card to make it an 8, right? So let's look. So even on the back, right? Even on the back, I'm seeing really strong back, right? Really strong back. I don't see any edge wear. I don't see anything crazy. So I still don't see anything crazy with this card, right? So let's get a look at it real close up, right? And see what they could have judged this card as. Now, Japanese cards are known for their quality, which is why a lot of people go after Japanese cards, because their printing is so much better. So even then as I look, right? Even as I look, okay? I don't see anywhere where that card is physically diminished. So there's two options, right? I can always crack it and try to regrade it. I can send it to PSA to regrade it themselves and see if they will own up to the mistake of it being anything. Or I am seeing stuff that I'm not normally accustomed to. This, if this is truly an 8, it's because of surface, which it's because of surface scratches, really, if this is truly an 8. And it very well may have surface scratches, but even with my magnifying glass, even with a really nice camera, I do not have the ability to see these. It's best case it's a guess, right? Best case it's a guess. But you will always be pleasantly surprised if you automatically assume that a card is going to be a 9 or an 8 and not a 10. So yeah, that's it. Hopefully you learned something. Hopefully you learned about how how to grade cards, maybe get familiar with it. Obviously, what they're looking for when it comes to grading cards. Like I said, the four main things they are looking for: centering, edges, corners, surface. So as long as you can kind of guess by looking at the things that we looked at tonight, you'll be able to really fine tune this thing. And hopefully you get better at guessing the grades. It all comes with time, it all comes with practice. I myself have sent several hundred cards, and I get surprised every time I get one in. So if you like this video, if it helps you out, if you have any questions, please comment down below. Liking this video goes a long way in the algorithm, and definitely trying to get my watch hours up. And hey, I do live streams every week, so please stop on by and see some of my PSA unboxings. Anyways, thanks for stopping in. Hope you learned something. I'll talk to you later.